In today's video, we're taking a look at my bold predictions for the upcoming 25-26 NHL season. We're going to take a look at a variety of things about how certain teams are going to do, what milestones might be had, how are certain players going to play this year. I'll give you my thoughts and a lot of predictions coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today is my bold prediction video, which I do every year as the NHL season kicks off. Yesterday I posted my standings prediction, so I already gave you my breakdown on where I think the teams are going to finish during the regular season. Again, of course, that led us to what the playoff matchups would look like, assuming my predictions are right. And then, of course, my very early Stanley Cup predictor. I don't expect all that to come true, of course. I know there's going to be mistakes in there, and predictions are extremely hard. And while we only do this for fun, just to give my thoughts and opinions anyway. So at the end of the day, I don't really care if I'm right, and I hope you don't either. Just like I said, this is just for fun. This is what I think. Some things will be right, some things will be wrong. And that's all there is to that. Now, with these bold predictions, there's going to be a variety of things here. Some of it's going to be team-related, some of it's player-related, some of it's trade-related. So let's dive in and get started, and I'll give you my thoughts on things that we're going to see this year. First bold prediction, the St. Louis Blues are going to be one of the league's most improved teams and are going to surprise a lot of people this year. Definitely be a playoff team. And will challenge for the top three spots. I don't know if they'll get there, but they're definitely going to challenge for the top three spots in the Central. If not, they'll definitely be a wild card team. I think a full year of under head coach Jim Montgomery is going to do wonders for this team. We saw how much better they were in the second half after he was brought in. Typically, if you look at his history and the defensive metrics, this guy's had really great success with coaching on the defensive side of the game, which has been very, very helpful for his goaltenders. So I fully suspect Jordan Binnington to have a major, big-time season for the Blues. Of course, he's also gunning for the starting job for Team Canada at the Olympics. So he's got a lot going here with plus with the way this team plays for Montgomery. I think Binnington's going to have a huge year, and I think the Blues are going to be a major surprise team and be a lot better than a lot of people expect. Number two, a player that I have concerns about that could be a major disappointment is Noah Dobson in Montreal. Now, I'm not 100% real certain that I think this is going to happen, but I think the potential's there. Now, we know Noah Dobson in the past has been a very prolific offensive defenseman, not known, even though he's a fairly big guy, not known for being physical, not known for being the greatest defender. I mean, his offense is really his strongest suit. Defending is something that he definitely, needs to continue working to get better at. Now, he's not the worst defender of all time by any means, but it's not the strongest part of his game. Last year, even the offense was a down part of his game as well. Of course, the Islanders didn't have a great season, but I'm just concerned that with Laine Hudson being there as well, that Noah Dobson might not get a lot of power play time, or at least not power play one. But the way he's paid, he probably should. But are they going to run a power play with two defensemen? You just don't really see that anymore in today's game. So unless they do, I don't know that he's going to be able to rack up a lot of points. And I just think I already seen it in the preseason with the Montreal fans giving him a hard time for his lack of physicality, lack of being able to clear the front of the net, the defensive play. I just really wonder if Montreal might be regretting the Dobson move by the time we get to the halfway point of the season. Obviously, the Laine Hudson contract extension impacted by this. If Laine Hudson continues to be their number one top offensive defenseman, which I suspect will be the case, I think it's going to make it hard for Dobson to live up to expectations. Number three prediction is the Atlantic and the Central are both sending 5 teams to the playoffs. I don't think we're going to see 4-4 in either conference. I think the Atlantic Division and the Central Division are the two toughest, deepest divisions in hockey. And I think we're going to see 5 teams from each. If you look at the Metro and the Pacific, I don't have a lot of confidence beyond the teams that I think will be in the top 3 to be strong enough to be wildcard teams. So I think those 2 divisions will be the dominant ones this year for number of teams making the playoffs at least. Bold prediction number 4, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to win the draft lottery. I think that it seems to me like it's just inevitable, I feels like, and it's just a gut feeling that Gavin McKenna will be a Pittsburgh Penguin. I mean, obviously, look at all those years ago. They got Muriel. Large time later, they get Sidney Crosby, and now it's time for the next generation, Gavin McKenna. I know the Penguins won an opening night against the Rangers. I don't expect them to be a great team this year. Most prediction models have them near the bottom of the league, and I just have that feeling they're going to win. As Crosby and Malkin prepare to move on, McKenna will be the next wave of first overall pick to take that team into a new era. Speaking of first overall picks, my next bold prediction, actually the next two revolve around former first overall picks. Connor Bedard is going to have a big-time breakout season. I think he's already been pretty good in his first 2 years, but we're going to see a big acceleration in Bedard's production this year. I think having a player like Frank Nazar to play with, Nazar's going to be really good this year too, but I think Bedard, I'm predicting, will hit 35 or more goals and 80 or more points, and he will make his way onto Team Canada's Olympic team. Next bold prediction revolves around another former first overall pick and, of course, another BC native, Macklin Celebrini of the San Jose Sharks. I think Celebrini is going to prove himself already in his second year to be one of the game's smartest, strongest two-way players. Will put up an 80-plus point campaign, be a point-per-game player, and also make his way onto Team Canada's Olympic team. I think the Team Canada brass is going to decide that Bedard and Celebrini are going to be a huge part of the next generation of top talented Canadian players, and will want them to get the experience. Even if they don't have a huge role, they're going to want them to be on the roster and to soak it all in at the very least, and at least have a small role in that team. My next bold prediction revolves around Ottawa Senators' top centerman, Timmy Stützle. He will return to his 90-plus point campaign. In fact, I believe he will hit 100 points this year, get back to being a 40-goal scorer, which he was just shy. I can't remember. I'm thinking he hit 39 a couple of years ago, but Stützle is going to take a big step forward this year. You got to remember, last year, the Senators and new head coach Travis Green were challenged to become a much tighter defensive team. And this was not just the D-core. This was team defense, the forwards included. A lot of their forwards were not great defensively, and they really zoned in and focused on that last year. So I do think it's fair to say that played a role in kind of slowing down their offensive game. And really, if you look at the fact that they climbed up into being a wildcard team, 1 point shy of third place in the Atlantic, and they really didn't have any of their players for the most part. Like you didn't see anybody really popping off as career seasons. A guy like Drake Batherson was up there and near the top of the team scoring, but was it a career season? In some ways it was, but we're not talking by much. Like, he's been a pretty consistent, 60, 65 point player in his career. So really, if Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle and those guys can get back, it should be even better. So I think with all these guys around Timmy, making him even better, that he is going to really take off this year. If you look at a lot of the trajectories that he was on, he could compare with guys like Draisaitl, for example, early in his career. This is about the time, and McKinnon as well, about the time in their career when they kind of start to really take off. So I think this is the year for Timmy Stu. Next up, Mitch Marner and Jack Eichel in Vegas will become one of the games, if not the game's highest scoring duo. I think Marner and Eichel are going to develop tremendous chemistry. Marner likely going to even surpass his career high last year. I think they're both going to be able to have 100-point seasons and just be the game's strongest dynamic duo. Next up, my next bold prediction, Patrick Laine and the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to say that Patrick Laine is going to score some power play goals for the Montreal Canadiens, but otherwise, his offensive game is going to be relegated to consistent bottom six duty. We've already seen projections for their opening night lineup, or it looks like Laine might actually play on the fourth line, or really, I guess their third and fourth line might be interchangeable depending on the day in the game and who they're playing. But Laine just doesn't look like he's going to be able to play with Demidov regularly, at least at 5-on-5. They might connect on the power play. I honestly am concerned about Laine's production away from the power play. 5-on-5 play, I think, might be a concern, and I wonder what the future holds for him. He's making a lot of money. Doesn't have much time left on his contract. The decisions are going to have to be made around him. And I know that he's happy there, but with the way the team's going, I wonder if he's a long-term fit. I really do. My next bold prediction, Trevor Zegras, new to the Philadelphia Flyers this year, is going to become a dynamic duo with Matvei Michkov. Those two guys have a lot of skill. I hope Rick Tocchet allows them to put it to good use and doesn't rein them in too tight. Let them have a little bit of a leash. But Zegras and Michkov are going to be an extremely fun duo to watch. It's going to help Zegras have a bounce-back season, and it's going to help Michkov have a strong sophomore season. So I think those two guys are going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. My next bold prediction, a couple of teams that were high in the standings last year are going to see significant regression, at least significant enough to miss the playoffs. I don't know that the regression is going to be that massive that it's going to be shocking. Not like what we saw with the Bruins last year. But I have the Washington Capitals and the LA Kings both regressing to the point that they do miss the playoffs. And my standing predictions, I have them both kind of being that last spot on the outside looking in. But looking at those teams, to me, LA got a little bit older. I didn't like the moves that kind of Holland made in the blue line. I'm not sure Darcy Kemper can put up as good of a season as he did last year. So I just think that they're going to regress, not a lot, but enough just to miss the cusp here. And then Washington, I just think everything went right. They are a team that's primed for regression, in my opinion. And I think if we see the Rangers improve as much as we might think, and then you get Carolina and New Jersey being strong, I think they may have a tough time getting in, and I'm predicting that they both miss. My next bold prediction, the Utah Mammoth are going to have multiple 40-goal scorers and a 100-point player and make the playoffs. I think the Mammoth are due for a Mammoth season. I know that's not the most creative way to say it, but essentially I think you're going to see Clayton Keller, who's been a very productive guy, surpass 100 points, which isn't a huge stretch based on what we've seen from him recently. And I think J.J. Peterka and Dylan Gunter both have that potential to score 40-plus goals. And I think Utah will squeak into a wild card playoff spot. My next bold prediction, the Anaheim Ducks are going to be one of the up-and-coming, exciting teams to watch this year. I think they're going to improve enough. We saw some improvements last year. They still went ahead and made the coaching change. But I think they're going to fall just short of making the playoffs. They'll be right in the mix until the final days of the season and just be a point or two out is my prediction for Anaheim. I think they're going to get good improvement under Joel Quenneville. I think their roster is going to be better. I think they're going to be fun to watch. They're just going to fall just shy in a really tight Western Conference. My next bold prediction also revolves around another Western team, and that's the Minnesota Wild. They spent a lot of money this offseason on contract extensions. I'm not convinced it's going to lead to a lot of success in the short term. And I'm predicting Minnesota is also going to miss the playoffs this year. They spent a ton of money on Kaprizov and Gustafsson, but I think they're going to be in tough in that really, really hard Central Division. I've seen predictions all over the map with them, anywhere from first place to second, third, fourth, fifth. I have them being out of the playoffs. I have them in sixth place. My next bold prediction, the first coach fired, and this might not be a lot bold, but I think it's going to be Andrew Brunette of the Nashville Predators. The part that might be a bit bold, though, is that GM Barry Trotz is going to name himself the replacement as head coach just for the remainder of the season. I'm going to say Trotz is fired by Christmas. I don't think we're going to see a lot of coach firings this year. I think it's only going to be a few, but Brunette, I think, will be the first. Trotz will take over himself, be coach GM for the remainder of the year, just so he can go behind a bench, get a better feel for what's going on in the room, what's going on the bench, and start making some bold changes with that roster. Because I am predicting as well, in the next prediction here, that the Nashville Predators are going to trade some veteran players and make some bold trades after another not-so-good start to the season. They're going to quickly learn that they're not better than last year. And we're going to see some significant trades. One trade I will say is Steven Stamkos to Carolina. That's a bold prediction. I'm going to mention Philip Forsberg's name. I don't think he's going to get traded. But I wonder what he's thinking about all this, and could there be any chance he ends up asking for a trade? Maybe not so much during the season, but maybe later on. That's going to be a scenario to watch. Another big bold prediction, in my opinion, is Evgeny Malkin will leave the Pittsburgh Penguins. He will end up going to Florida as a attempt to replace Barkov, as I don't think Barkov is going to make it back for the playoffs, and Malkin will be part of that replacement. Now, is he going to be able to do what Malkin does? No, not 100%, but he'll be one of the closer options they have to get a big centerman that can play with experience and help them try to three-peat. So I do predict Malkin will leave the Penguins and join the Panthers. I'm going to say that for this season, Sidney Crosby does not leave the Penguins. I'm not ruling out predicting he will leave in the future. I do think it's more and more interesting and more likely than it ever has been before. I just don't think we're quite there yet. My next bold prediction is Elias Pettersson in the Vancouver Canucks. We're talking about the former 100-point centerman here, not the EP40 lookalike or the other Pettersson. No. We're not talking about the Elias Pettersson young defenseman here. We're talking about the centerman who once put up 100 points. I'm predicting that Pettersson is going to have a massive bounce-back season, be close to that 100-point campaign and performance, and help the Vancouver Canucks have a much better year. My next bold prediction is that head coach Andre Tourigny of the Utah Mammoth is going to likely be the Jack Adams Trophy winner for Coach of the Year. I do think some other coaches that are going to be in that conversation are going to include Joe Quenneville of the Anaheim Ducks, Mike Sullivan with the New York Rangers in his first season, and maybe even John Cooper as well, because I do think the Lightning are still poised to be a strong contender and possibly win the Atlantic Division. But I do think Andre Tourigny will walk away with a Jack Adams winner. Next bold prediction. I know there's a lot of hype around Ivan Demidov to be the Rookie of the Year, and I expect him to be good this year. He's going to be highly entertaining, electric to watch. I'm not convinced it's a slam dunk that he wins the Calder. I fully expect him to be one of the best rookies. I fully expect him to be in the race right down to the wire, but I'm going to say that there's enough of a strong rookie class that it's not a slam dunk that he wins the Calder. In fact, I'm going to predict that he ends up being a finalist but does not win, that it's going to go to first overall pick from the 25 draft, Matthew Schaefer. I think it won't be long before Schaefer is acknowledged as the top defenseman with the Islanders, playing big minutes, putting up decent amount of points, and his role is going to be so big and so meaningful for that team that voters will see him as being the more impactful rookie. I think there's lots of other names that'll be in the mix there as well. I think Jimmy Snuggerud with St. Louis is definitely a name that's going to be interesting to watch. I think Zane Parekh in Calgary, depending on how he's used, I'm not sure he'll be a front runner for the Calder, but he'll definitely get some love and some attention. And another one as well that I think is going to be huge, that could be a big point getter and get a lot of attention, is Matt Savoy in Edmonton. He's going to get a real good chance to play a top six role with some very talented players. Could easily see him racking up some points. So we'll see. My next bold prediction revolves around another young player that was projected to be first overall but was not in the end, and that's Shane Wright of the Seattle Kraken. I'm going to say that by the end of the season, he will be the Kraken's number one centerman and surpass 30 goals and 65 points on the season. Now, speaking of the Kraken, I don't see good things happening for them this year, and I envision a mass sell-off by the trade deadline that's going to include some veterans like Jared McCann, Jaden Schwartz, probably Eli Tolvanen, maybe Jamie Alexiak. They're going to find a way to try to move on from Grubauer. That might be challenging. But the Kraken will be out of the playoffs and be a big-time seller. The Philadelphia Flyers, I see them having a fun season, like I said, with guys like Michkov and Zegras, but I think it's still going to be tough overall. And I suspect that they're going to quickly learn with Rick Tocchet at the helm and the way they're projected to play, that I'm not sure they're going to think that Owen Tippett's a fit anymore. And I think they're going to see the long-term vision of the franchise change a little bit, and Tippett will end up being traded for something that works differently. Hopefully, a stronger defenseman of some sort, because we know that they're actively looking for help on the blue line. So that's one prediction. When it comes to the top goal scorers for the Rocket Richard Trophy, there's going to be a number of names to look at. I think Austin Matthews will be right there and possibly win. But my prediction is that Matthews is actually going to be a runner-up, and that we might even see a tie this year. I'm predicting Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres to go over 50 goals, as well as Leon Draisaitl. I think they're both going to finish around 55 goals and be tied for the Rocket Richard Trophy. I'm going to say Matthews is going to be right around the 50 mark and be just a couple of goals shy off the mark to win the trophy this year, but we'll still have a very, very good season. I'm predicting as well that the Rasmus Andersson trade with the Calgary Flames will come together and come to be before the trade deadline, and that he will end up being a member of the Vegas Golden Knights. I think now that they've declared for sure that Pietrangelo is not returning, they will be looking hard to replace their top right-handed defenseman, and Rasmus Andersson to me just makes too much sense for what he brings to be that player that can come closest. I don't know that Petro can be a guy that can be fully replaced. I think he's a unique player with a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, but Anderson's one of the few defensemen on the market that I think could be a fit to try to fill his shoes as best as he can. Another bold prediction that I'm going to make, this one might seem interesting as well. Thatcher Demko of the Vancouver Canucks is not only going to be healthy this year, but he's going to be in the Vezina Trophy conversation. We're going to see Vezina quality Demko this year, along with Kevin Lankinen, and I suspect that the Canucks will make the playoffs, which means, like I said, there's only going to be 3 teams from the Pacific if my prediction for that holds true, which means I have the Canucks in 3rd place largely because of goaltending between Lankinen and Demko being in that mix. And last but not least, my last bold prediction I'm going to make is that sometime before we get to the end of the NHL's regular season, Senators owner Michael Andlauer will have negotiated with Gary Bettman in the NHL to not lose their first-round pick. That was due to the Evgeny Dadonov contract screw-up from a few years back. Of course, that was before Andlauer's time. He's been pleading for a couple of years that had nothing to do with him, that he wasn't even really fully disclosed everything he needed to know about that situation when he was buying the team. He was told about the situation, but told it wouldn't be a big deal. It turned out it was a big deal. Losing a first-round pick is a major deal, and we've seen other rulings in the past, like the Ilya Kovalchuk contract issue with the Devils. Like, things can be reduced. Now, I'm not saying the Senators are going to get off scot-free here. Was there, an issue on their side of things that caused a problem? There absolutely was. And I can understand there being punishment, but that's a significant punishment. And I think that after all the pleading and everything that Andlauer will do, that they will get the punishment reduced and not lose the first-round pick. So they have that available at the trade deadline as a currency to make a big move to bring in another piece of the pie here to help them be a strong playoff team. I'm not sure exactly what the new punishment is going to be, but it will be something lesser than a first-round pick. So that is all my bold predictions for the upcoming 25-26 season. As I mentioned, I've already made my standings prediction, so I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Give me your predictions in the comments. If you disagree with mine, that's totally fine. All I ask is that you be mature and respectful. Tell me you think I'm wrong, but make sure you leave your predictions. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, you're crazy, you're out to lunch, but then you don't tell me what you think either. Like, I want to know why you think I'm out to lunch. Why do you think my prediction is wrong? Tell me what you think will happen instead. Counter the argument. We can have a fun discussion in the comments and see what everybody thinks. And hey, this is all just for fun anyway. So does it really matter if we're right or wrong? We'll find out later if we are or not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll discuss further. And of course, like I said, if you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. Content posted daily, multiple times per day to keep you up to date on all the news around the entire NHL. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.